friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the home study process and also the renewal process when you are becoming a foster parent. I got papers here and we're going to get right into it. So guys, I've already discussed on one of my older videos, it's not labeled home study, I should probably relabel it or retitle it. I have discussed our home study process in a more lengthy video in one of my older ones, so I'll link that here. I also have a more detailed blog post about the home study process. I've had a couple people ask me recently if I can do a video about the home study process. I just want you to know those resources are already there, a little bit harder to find. So I'll link the video here and the blog post will be in the description below. Again, I am in Canada. Things may be a little different for me. 85% of my viewers are from the States, so it'll be applicable to you. So basically the home study for us, it consisted of 4 interviews, one together as a couple. Then we each had to do a separate interview. Interviews were lengthy. I'd say they're a good couple hours long, each interview. And then we had to do another interview together as a couple where we had to fill out a questionnaire. And it was kind of like a shotgun. Like they were asking us questions about drug use, alcohol, mental health, addictions, family past, abuse, anything like that. It was like I forget what she called it, she's like, this is a quick quiz, and she wanted us, we had 30 seconds to just whip through the answers. She didn't really want us to think about them. They were like, yes, no, maybe, and then I think on a scale of 1 to 10 some of the questions were. So that was the final one. So we had those 4 interviews in total. The first 3 very, very in-depth. The 4th one, not quite as in-depth because she had already gotten all that information, but it was kind of like testing us to make sure we weren't lying about anything. So those were the 4 main interviews you will have. You may have more. And they ask you everything. They ask you about your family history, your childhood, how you were parented, how you parent your kids, what do you believe about discipline, what you believe about nutrition, what you do as a family, what are some of the traditions and holidays, what is your religion, would you feel about a child with a different religion? What's your stance on homosexuality? There's all everything. They ask you everything. They really just peer into your soul, which is good because it does feel very intrusive. But if you look at it, if my kids were apprehended for me, I would want to know that the people that they're going to were very well questioned, to be able, these people are professionals, these social workers, and they see people all the time and they can tell intentions for the most part, and tell if people are getting into foster care for the right reason or the wrong reason. So yeah, you're bearing your soul. It's very intrusive, but it's good. You don't want these kids being moved from one horrible situation to another horrible situation, into somebody who's maybe doing it for the wrong reason. So the questions they ask you, they're a necessity. As intrusive as they are a necessity. Then you also have a bunch of paperwork you have to complete. So you have your doctors, and I think my other video is more detailed because it was fresher. This was over 2 years ago that I did this now. But I just kind of want to tell you what comes to the top of mind. We had to get medicals, driver's abstract, police record checks, to have children vulnerability sector checks done. So that's basically where they run you through, I think it's province-wide, if you've been involved with any children's aid societies, province-wide or statewide. It's called the Vulnerable Sector Check, I believe. Update vaccinations and proof of that for our pets. We had to do a fire safety plan and draw that all out, and what's our safety plan, where will the kids go, how will they know how to get out, all of that. What else did we have to do? We had to, obviously we already had fire alarms, but we had to make sure they were working. CO2 detector, a fire extinguisher, which we'd never had before. Thankfully, to this day, I've still never had to use, but we did have to get a fire extinguisher. We had to have a locked box for all of our medications. All of your chemicals and everything need to be up high, proper child safety. Now, we are not, by nature, we are not child-proof people. We believe in teaching children what they are allowed to touch and what they aren't allowed to touch. We also believe in children learning about natural consequences, and being aware of things around them. And yeah, we had never used baby gates until we became foster parents, and I had to get baby gates everywhere, which drive me nuts, but it is what it is. It's something that you'll have to child-proof your whole home, essentially. Alcohol has to be stored out of reach or locked. I believe alcohol has to be locked as well. If you have young children, then it just has to be out of reach. Plug protectors in the outlets, no cords hanging from blinds or anything like that. Any cords for your computer or anything like that need to be secured to the wall, tucked in behind furniture. So they check for all of that. They do not open every one of your cupboards and your closets and look through your clothes and look under your bed, even though I cleaned all of that anyways. They don't. So yeah, that's that in a nutshell. And you do your training usually first, your Pride or your MAP training, then you have your home study. So we started our home study at this end of our training because there was a potential placement. They kind of wanted us to be ready. So the last little bit did get, I wouldn't say rushed, but it was quicker than anticipated. So as if all that paperwork is not enough, they have to make sure you're a continuing, ongoing, upstanding citizen, which of course, I'm just joking about, like I'm just being silly about that, which of course is important. So every year, this is our second one now, we have to do this foster home annual assessment. So I have to fill out paperwork and then she has to come and talk to us. I think she was here about an hour and a half when we did the other one. So I'm going to read you a couple of things that we have to do. So we have to complete the enclosed foster home annual assessment up to the Pride Competencies checklist. Ensure your children over the age of 6 or other adults living in your home have completed the appropriate section of the annual assessment form. Kids over 6 and any other adults are asked questions, and we don't have that problem because it's just me and Greg and our kids are under 6, but I guess next year Lilia will have to complete a questionnaire for her as well. And ensure they're available at the time of the review. So all adults and kids over 6 that live in the home have to be present for this review. We have to review the foster care service agreement. So just, you know, what we've agreed to. Go through the enclosed safety checklist to ensure your home is in compliance. I will fill out the checklist when we meet. Check your smoke detectors. Make sure your rabies vaccinations are up to date for your cats and dogs. And you have a copy of the vaccinations paper, and review the housing requirements and safety issues section of the foster parent manual and the additional safety precautions for young children section if you're fostering young children. So this is the questionnaire I'm going to get asked. So this is just the family, the resource worker, your file number, date of your last review, emergency information, who's doing this actual meeting. So this is our worker, our personal worker. List of children currently in the home. Foster children, including respite, who have moved from the home since the last review and reason for move. So we have to bring up all the old wounds, discuss why kids moved. This is more for if you are a foster parent or foster family that is just really uncomfortable with being uncomfortable and kids move through your home quickly. That kind of throws up a red flag that maybe you're not the right type of person to do fostering, or maybe you need more training. So that's more what they're trying. It's not for me to actually open up old wounds. It's because they want to know, okay, if there's been 4 placement breakdowns in this home this year, A, what are we doing wrong? B, what is the foster family doing wrong? And how can we either fix this problem, or is it time for us to take their license away? Because clearly they're not meant to do it. Are you having contact with former foster children and or their families? You have to describe all of that. Are there any other adults residing in the home or frequently in the home? List all the pets in the home and their last vaccinations. Comment on current sleeping arrangements and bedroom situations. Have you been on hold this past year for any reason, or for how long? So for us, our second place is on hold right now until we find out what's happening with the baby. So I'll have to write that in there. Have there been any protection investigations, allegations, or concerns reported? So has any member of the household had any police involvement, charges, convictions, or traffic violations since the last review? So they even got to know about your speeding tickets. Not that I have one, but I do have one from way back in the day, but not since my last review. If there's any new adults, do they have to have criminal record checks? Review any changement to employment or financial situation and impact on the foster home. So nothing's changed for us. That was quite a bit of information for us on the last review because I had quit my job after becoming a foster mom. So health update, comment on any health concerns for any family household members. Does anyone residing in your home smoke? Does anyone residing in your home consume alcohol? List all medications and dosages taken by members of the foster family and potential impact on functioning. Describe your self-care strategies. Is there any way we can support you in this area? Are you able to provide transportation to medical appointments, access, counseling sessions, community activities? If not, what supports are needed in order for you able to do this? I've talked about this before in other videos, but our agency really wants us to do all the driving, which I agree with, but it's not possible in all situations. And some people take advantage of the fact that there are drivers. Drivers should be needed like when they're truly needed and not just because the foster parent's being lazy. Yes, it's a lot of work caring for them in your home, but when they're going to different meetings, different counseling sessions, access visits, there's a lot of emotions, and it's very important that the foster parent is the one that's reconnecting with them after that meeting or after that access visit with their bios or after, you know, a counseling session, so that you can kind of gauge how they're doing and how they're feeling, and just having another person doing that drive and that transport when, you know, that time in the car could be really valuable talking time. Anyways, so they do like us to do as much of the driving at our agency anyway. I know other agencies that's not the case, but comment on the impact of any changes in roles of primary caregivers over the past year. So, you know, if maybe Greg quit his job and I went back to work, we'd write that, but no changes for us. How are decisions made in your family? That's interesting because I wonder what I wrote last year. Well, I'm sure it's the same thing, but I'm sure they go back and check and see how you have evolved as a couple, and how are problems or disagreements resolved in your family? What have you and your children found challenging recently? What activities do you participate in as a family? Who is involved in these activities? Just your bio kids, your foster kids? You got to explain that. What activities do you participate in one-to-one with each child in your home? What areas of fostering have given you the most satisfaction in the last year? What areas are you least satisfied with? What discipline strategies are used in your home? And then it just has all little pointers pointing us back to our foster parent manual about what we're allowed to do for discipline and not allowed to do, which again, I'll do another video about that. Are there any behaviors that you have difficulty with? How does this impact you? What are your concerns and worries? How do you address these difficulties? This area was very, very filled out for me last year because that's when we had the boys and I was having difficulties. It was not an easy time in my life. How have recent or current placements impacted members of your family? Describe your personal family support network. What kind of assistance or additional support would be beneficial to your family as it relates to fostering? Have you taken any respite over the course of the last year? Are there people in your support network that are or could be approved to do this? Have there been any significant events in the home involving foster or biological children? Anything significant, like that could be from about a death in the family or a loss or new program that they're doing or a new counseling session, like anything significant. Were there any altercations if you have older kids, that sort of thing? Are there any upcoming events, changes that could significantly impact your family, like a job change, move, health concerns, etc.? What do you see as your role with biological families? You have to explain that. How has the fostering experience impacted your children, positive and or negative? Are there any questions you would like me to ask or anything particular I should discuss when I interview your children? So again, that's for children over 6. They talk about likes, dislikes, feelings about fostering's role with foster children. What activities do you do with the foster children in your home? So they have to write that as well. So that's one thing I have to say. It's not just foster parents. Like, we do this as a family, and our kids play just as much of an important role that we do in different ways and different capacities, but just as equally important. You attended a required mandatory training. I'm going to fail on that. I think I've done... See, this is all I did this all, though, the year before, because it was mandatory as well. So I haven't done it again. Ugh, I really need to get better. You know what I didn't put in that foster care binder, and I'll link the video up here, is a training schedule page. I need to add that. I'm going to do that for you guys. Maybe I'll send it out to everyone who's already on the email list. What other trainings have you attended? So ongoing training is hugely important in foster care to deal with the problems that you're going to come across. So our agency, most agencies offer quite a bit of training. States like are required, if they don't get it, they lose their license. They tell us that's required here, but they would never like take our license away for it. They would just be like, okay, you really need to do it. And they'd keep hassling us until it was done. But in the States, like it's like a certain number of hours. It's a lot more regimented, I know, in certain states. And you can take existing trainings that would, you know, if the topic is relevant to fostering, a lot of your workers are going to approve that as an approved training. So how have you integrated your understanding of attachment and trauma, the use of the place model, playfulness, loving, acceptance, curiosity, empathy? I'll do another video on that another time. And other new skills in your interactions with children in your home. What training ideas would you like to see in the future? If you haven't attended training or not part of support group, what prevents you from participating? I am a part of a support group. I think those are hugely important. Are there training alternatives that you would utilize? DVD, internet, webinars, books, etc. Evaluation and goals. What do you consider to be your greatest strength as a foster parent? What do you consider to be an area of growth? Would you like to discuss this review with anyone other than your worker? So sometimes people have problems with their workers and it's hard to be honest with them. So every worker has a supervisor and you can easily talk to the supervisor. So they ask you right in this evaluation. So then this part she'll do with me. This is the pride competencies. So this is basically everything that we learned in our training. Are we doing it and are we competent in it? So I'm not going to read them all. I feel like this video is long enough. But competency 1 is protecting and nurturing children. So 1, creates and maintains a safe home, meeting children's needs and in compliance with ministry regulations and agency policies. So it's either meets expectations, needs development, not applicable, or mark as a goal. So it goes all the way through and there is, how many pages of this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of this. So the competency 1 is protecting and nurturing children. 2 is meeting children's developmental needs and addressing developmental delays. 3, supporting relationships between children and their families. 4, connecting children to safe, nurturing relationships intended to last a lifetime. 5, working as a member of a professional team. And 6, reinforcing a child's heritage and cultural identity. So there's points under each of those 6 topics that they will assess me on, and that's just through conversation. So then the worker writes a whole long page of an assessment which includes a description of the observations between the foster parents and children, family functioning, impact of fostering, parenting techniques, and this assessment is meant to capture strengths, areas of growth, and trainings needed. And finally, we have to do a review of the service agreement, oath of confidentiality, and policies and procedures. So it's basically saying that we've completed the annual assessment, we've reviewed and wish to continue our foster care agreement, we've reviewed the statement of confidentiality, understand that it's an ongoing binding agreement, and we have a copy of the foster parent manual and are familiar with the agency policies and procedures regarding the following: discipline, supervision of children, guidelines, clothing, possession, and purchase of goods, health and dental appointments or emergencies, reporting serious occurrences and incidences, placement concerns, investigations, foster children's involvement with primary family, board rates, allowances, and blah, 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 children's rights and care. Like, I could just go on and on. Get used to the paperwork if you're a new foster parent or a foster parent to be. There's lots. So that is our annual review. A little bit about the home study in a nutshell. This is the home safety checklist. So like I said, we have our fire thing. They're gonna make me redraw that, which, like, whatever. My house hasn't changed. I don't have any new windows or doors, so I have to do all of that. But this talks about household requirements, talking about heat and designated spaces for informal living, dining, food preparation. Maximum temperature of hot water in bathroom is this. Steps or railings are sturdy, appropriately spaced, and in good repair. Electrical outlets covered and not overloaded. Means of communication. Is there a telephone access available? Fire safety. Sleeping arrangements. Firearms. Medicines and hazardous substances. Specific safety precautions. Like for us, we have a swimming pool. We have to have a lock on our gate. Obviously, we have a whole fence around it. My husband put that in for our kids before we started fostering. But we would have had to do that as a requirement if we didn't already have the fence, but we also have to have a lock on it and a chime, chime when the door to the pool opens. because that's considered a special circumstance for us. And then about pets, automobile safety, what's the water source, educational undertaking, informing and instructing children about, so that's teaching children about your safety precautions in your home. And then there's an area for non-compliance if you're not doing anything right. Basically that's it. And then this just talks about how you do your fire safety plan. And then we have in here, then we have a foster family satisfaction survey. So I'll read, it's only 9, I'll read them real quick. The agency takes my problems very seriously. Overall, the agency has been helpful to me. I can tell the agency the truth without worrying. Agency staff are available when I need them. Agency staff do not tell me the whole story. The agency treats me honestly and openly. I feel comfortable telling workers about problems I have with my foster children. The agency is very demanding. The agency staff and foster parents function well as a team. So you rate that from 1 to 5, for 1 being never true, 5 being always true. And then overall, how satisfied are you? Taking everything into consideration. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Any other comments? Yada, yada, yada. And that goes in this envelope. That goes to, she's like, I think she's one of the directors. Anyways, somebody at the top this goes to. So if you have problems, that's who you're talking to. Anyways, this is the paperwork for the annual review. Nowhere near as much as the home study, but paperwork. That's the worst part about foster care. And while we're talking about, no, this video's over, it's done. Whew. Anyways, guys, I hope that was helpful for you. If you want to know about the home study process and the review process, and it was so helpful when you guys wrote on one of my last videos about how they do daycare in different states and if they pay for it. So it was really helpful to other viewers and other readers. So if you guys could do the same for this video, talk about, do you have to do an annual review? Is there anything different than what I mentioned in your home study process, and what state you're in, where you're located, and all of that good stuff? Because helping out others in this foster care community and just helping us all to be more aware and more knowledgeable is just, you know, it's so beneficial to all of us. So I thank you guys for doing that. So please do it again down in the comments on this video. Like it if you liked it, and consider subscribing if you're new here. I'd love to have you. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.